Hi, my name is Natalie, and I represent Auditradley, an accounting firm that is a member of an international network of accountants and lawyers. I would like to tell you about the wonderful tax benefits that Israel offers new immigrants and returning residents. The tax benefits are so wide-reaching that after viewing this video, you might call Israel a tax haven like many professionals have called it before. If you are living abroad or have just returned to Israel, please take a minute to contact us and receive some professional advice. It is very important to consult with a professional. This will guarantee that you will get the most out of the tax benefits and will not pay taxes in the country that you intend on leaving. So now, who is entitled to these tax benefits? New immigrants and returning residents are entitled to these tax benefits. Returning residents receive tax benefits, but veteran returning residents, who are Israeli residents who have lived abroad for more than 10 years, receive huge tax benefits. So now what are these tax benefits? First, we've got the exception from inheritance tax. In 2012, Israel continues to offer an exception from inheritance tax. Inheritance tax is the tax that heirs pay on their inheritance estate. Usually this is about 25% in Israel. And in Israel, this law has been cancelled and has not been renewed since the 1980s. This means that elderly Jews who immigrate to Israel can guarantee that their heirs will not be taxed on their inheritance. For example, in England, a person will pay between 20 and 40% inheritance tax, and in the USA, this is between 18 and 35%. And in Israel, such a tax does not exist. Another important tax benefit that was legislated in 2009 is a 10-year full tax exemption on a foreign income for new immigrants and veteran returning residents who came to Israel after 2007. This means that a person receives tax exemption over interest, dividends, salary, pension, rent, etc., and is exempt from corporate tax, capital gains tax, and the like. Furthermore, the law does not impose a limit on the amount of income a person may earn free of tax. This means that if a new immigrant has an annual income of $5 billion a year, he will not have to pay, then after 10 years he or she will have earned $15 million. That is quite an amount. $50 billion to earn free of tax. Let me give you some practical examples of how these tax benefits actually work. Say we have Betty, who owns 3 houses in England, and she decides to emigrate to Israel, and after 5 years she decides to sell her houses. She will enjoy full tax exemption over her profit. An Israeli citizen would have to pay 25% capital gain tax, and a British citizen would have to pay about 20% capital gain tax. Betty doesn't have to pay anything. Here's another example. Adam is a returning resident who has lived in the Netherlands for 10 years, which automatically makes him a veteran returning resident. He has established a successful clothing business in the Netherlands, and his business generates a profit of 10,000 euros a month. Because Adam has returned to Israel, he's exempt from paying taxes over his foreign income for the next 10 years, which amounts to a sum of 1.2 million euros over a period of 10 years. An Israeli citizen would have to pay 40% tax in such a situation. Adam doesn't have to pay anything. The last example to illustrate these benefits is that of Alma, a new immigrant from Russia. In Russia, Alma has savings that bear interest and are index-linked. Her annual interest amounts to 200,000 shekels a year. Unlike other Israeli citizens, Alma does not have to pay any tax over the interest of her savings. This law regarding the tax benefits is very complicated, but the bottom line is very simple. An income from abroad, no matter how big, is exempt from tax for 10 years. Here it is important to mention that the tax legislation is so dynamic that professionals in the field, as well as the government clerks, are flabbergasted and are still trying to adjust to the amendments in the legislation. So now let's talk about the tax scheme that really is a gift from heaven. The optimal combination of tax benefits mostly applies to the elderly population that lives abroad and their heirs. The elderly population that decides to emigrate or return to Israel profit in the following way. First of all, they accumulate wealth from their income, and secondly, they accumulate wealth from a 10-year tax exemption. Their heirs will profit in the following way by receiving all their incomes. They receive all the wealth that accumulated over the 10 years that their parents received tax exemption, and they're exempted from paying inheritance tax over all the capital and assets that are registered in Israel. So now that you know a bit what these tax benefits are in Israel, I would like to tell you that it's very important to consult with a professional who can verify the conditions of the double taxation treaty between your country and Israel in order to avoid paying double taxes in both countries. Auditradley represents clients in Israel and abroad and is a member of IGAL, an international network group of accountants and lawyers that provide services all over the world. If this topic is relevant for you and you're thinking of coming to Israel, we invite you to contact us through the email provided on the screen. You will receive a free initial consultation and will guarantee professional and experienced service that will smooth your transition to Israel.
Amen. Amen.